Welcome to the Power in Motion podcast, the show for women who want to develop a kinder relationship with their body so you can feel healthy, happy, and confident without restricting food, doing torturous exercise, or constantly worrying about the number on the scale. I'm your host, Kim Hagel, size-inclusive fitness specialist and certified non-diet health and life coach specializing in body image. This podcast is here to provide weight-neutral, health at every size aligned information and coaching on sustainable habits and mindset shifts so you can feel your very best in the body you have right now. Let's lace up our runners and go for a walk while we chat. Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Movement Show. I'm your host, Kim Hagel, personal trainer, body image coach, registered holistic nutritionist. This is episode 70, and today we're finishing off our 4-part series all about weight and health. So if you've missed any of the previous episodes, you can go back in episode 67. That was a solo episode with myself where we answered the question, is there a healthy way to lose weight? Right? Is there a way that we can lose weight without restriction, without the crazy fad diets? So if you missed that one, it really is a great one to help you answer that question. Episode 68, we were joined by Alexandra Ellis, a mobility specialist, and we talked all about weight in terms of joint pain. There is a very common belief that if we experience joint pain or have any pain in our body, that losing weight is the answer to get out of pain. And Alexandra really debunked that myth in a great way. And then episode 69, last week, we were with Dr. Jen Salib-Huber talking about how we can feel great in our body during midlife and how we can thrive and make the best out of the changes and things that are happening in our body during the perimenopause years without having to feel like we need to restrict. And now this week, we're talking about weight and weight loss specifically as it relates to fitness or athletic ability. In my personal training practice, I often notice when new clients come in and we have their goal setting session that no matter what the goal is, whether they want to get stronger or more mobile or be able to run a 5K, whatever it is, there always seems to be a certain number of pounds they think they need to lose in order to achieve that goal. Like the fitness goal always has a weight goal attached to it, right? Like I want to be able to run 5K, but I need to lose 30 pounds to be able to do it. Or I want to improve my speed, but I got to lose weight in order to be able to do that. And I just think it's so interesting because to me, it's so obvious that one doesn't have anything to do with the other, but it's just another example of how we're conditioned to think that losing weight will solve all our problems. So I invited Dr. Cindy Dallow on today to chat about this topic. Cindy has worked in the field of nutrition and fitness for 30 plus years. She's a registered dietitian and a certified intuitive eating counselor and has a private practice where she specializes in women's health and sports nutrition. Cindy has worked with athletes of all levels and across the size spectrum. And as she shares in this episode, weight and BMI alone are very poor predictors of a person's fitness. Nor can a person improve their fitness through weight loss alone. It really comes down to training and fueling the body with quality nutrition that supports performance, not through reducing calories and losing weight. We talked a fair bit about the set point range theory in the episode, which is the idea that there's a genetically predetermined weight range that each of us falls into, and that's different for each person. And she actually shared how losing weight below our set point can decrease our fitness and athletic performance and cause a whole bunch of other problems as well. Cindy shared how it's more important to focus on our fitness, especially our cardiorespiratory fitness. And that's where we're going to see the biggest bang for our buck in terms of our health. And how actually focusing on cardiorespiratory fitness is a much better predictor of health than BMI. And then finally, Cindy shared the amount and type of activity that's required to yield the greatest health benefits. And trust me when I say it's not what you think. So I really hope that you enjoy. It's a very informative interview. All of Cindy's social media links are in the show notes, including her free Facebook group. So I encourage you to go check that out. And without any further ado, let's just jump right in. Welcome to the Joyful Movement Show, Cindy. I am so excited for this upcoming conversation. I think I say that at every interview, but I really mean it about this one. I know we've had a little bit of a side conversation before starting the recording, and I just know that what we're going to get into here is going to be so relevant and really speak to our listeners. So we'll get into all of that in a second, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing the work that you do?
Sure. And thank you for having me on this podcast. I'm excited about it. So I am a registered dietitian. And for many years back in the 90s, I was doing a lot of weight loss counseling with people who came to see me, and just became really frustrated with kind of a revolving door, people losing weight, gaining, lose, gain, lose, gain. And I felt responsible for that because I was the one handing out the diets, and I just didn't feel good about it. So I went back to grad school, got my doctorate, and my dissertation was in the area of promoting physical activity and fitness in people of size instead of promoting weight loss. And so I created an intervention for women on doing that. And in the process, in the process of getting my doctorate, I learned that cardiorespiratory fitness is more important than fatness, which I know we're going to talk about. And it just really solidified my desire to help women focus more on fitness and activity if they're wanting to improve their health. Than weight loss, but women of all sizes and shapes, not just large size women, but because I really believe it is one of the most important things that we can do for our health.
Thanks for sharing that story. It's very similar to mine. I started out as a personal trainer 10 years ago, the same way, right? Trying to help people lose weight. And like you said, I always felt so icky, disheartened. Yeah. Like just awful when they would come with these goals and I wasn't able to help them, at least not in the long term. And like you said, I took a lot of responsibility for that too. But as I've learned, that's not how we really help people anyways, nor can we give that solution like long term, right? It's just not sustainable. So
exactly.
And so I do a lot of talking here on this podcast about a weight neutral approach to fitness and how we can chase health at any size. And I do a lot of dismantling around weight and health and BMI and all of that stuff. But here's something that comes up a lot is that, but if I want to improve my strength, if I want to get faster or fitter, improve my mobility, it's like the weight is attached to that as a goal. Like, but I have to lose weight to achieve those fitness goals. So I wanted to invite you on here as an expert who specializes in this area. So tell me, as a registered dietitian who's done a lot of work in this area, how much would you say that weight has to do with sports performance or athletic ability?
That's an excellent question. And I don't know if anybody's ever quantified it. I do know that when it comes to cycling, there is what's called a power to weight ratio. And that, at a lower weight, a person might be faster. But it still comes back to what are we going to do about it? I mean, it's not like we have this remedy that is going to work for everybody and work long term. So I still feel even if weight loss would help performance, and I'm not convinced that it always does. I think probably in certain situations it does. But even if that's the case, what are we going to do? Go down that path of trying to lose weight, which is very attractive to some people. And with all the diets out there, that's what I think most people think that they should do. But we know that it's not effective and it's not sustainable the ways that most people, go about weight loss. It's just not sustainable. Also, weight loss itself can impair athletic performance. And I work with triathletes. I work with non-triathletes too, but
Mhm.
I do work closely with triathletes. I am a triathlete, and this is the approach that I take. It's let's work on your training. Let's work on improving strength, your speed in both swimming, biking, running. We're definitely upper body strength and training. Just
Mhm.
having a training plan. As a dietitian, of course, I work with them on nutrition, but we go at it from the standpoint of improving the quality of somebody's diet if it needs to be improved. It doesn't
Mhm.
always need to. I don't assume that.
Mhm.
Um, but I would say most people do need to make some changes to improve the quality, and which we can easily do without reducing calories or going on a diet.
Yeah.
We definitely talk about fueling workouts because that is important, especially
Mhm.
with the longer distance type of events. Um, and then just see what happens to the weight.
Mhm.
Focus on what we know improves performance, which is training, specific types of training. Um, and focusing on what we know improves health and performance, strength training, which now there's a lot of research showing that strength training actually improves our health. Um, Making the changes in our diet that we know are good for us and that improve athletic performance. And then you just see where the weight falls. That's
Yeah.
my approach.
And I love that because, as you said, our weight's not really that within our control, anyways, or at least not in the long term. As you said, there's
Exactly.
no sustainable approach to long
Exactly.
term weight loss.
Right.
And I think it's interesting what you brought up too, an important point that it depends what we're after, right? Like,
Right.
and most of the
Right.
women that I meet, at least, and maybe it's different in your niche working with competitive athletes, but most of the women I meet are not training for the Olympics.
Right. Right. Well, and the women that I work, well, men and women triathletes that I work with, they're not obviously trained for the Olympics, but they are maybe wanting to qualify for Kona, which is the big Ironman
Mhm.
championship. To qualify, you do have to get a very fast time.
Mhm.
And so for those people, they may be more focused on weight loss, but I still don't provide
Mhm.
a weight loss diet. I just ethically can't do it. And
Mhm.
I tell people up front, I will definitely help you with your nutrition to
Mhm.
improve performance. That I can easily do. And my husband is a triathlon coach, so he can do the coaching, or you can find a coach anywhere. Um, but I am not going to give you a weight loss diet because it's really not compatible with endurance training. Because you can
Mm.
you can lose muscle mass if you are not careful and
Right.
you reduce your calories and protein intake too much. You can lose muscle mass, and that's going to counterbalance any gains you get from training.
Mhm.
um, Now with the women that I work with who are non-triathlete, non-runner type of women, I still take the same approach. And I know some of them still are wishing for weight loss. I can't change that.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, but I still use the same approach of let's just improve quality of diet, because that has a lot of health benefits.
Mhm.
Looking at anti-inflammatory foods, more plant focused, make sure
Mhm.
you're getting enough protein, vitamin D, iron, all of those things
Yeah.
that we need for good health. Um, and working on exercise and strength training, and just see what happens, because that's what's
Yeah.
going to happen anyway,
Well, that's
right?
just it. And what I hear you saying is like we can really miss the mark when weight is the primary
Yes.
focus, right? Like
Yes.
we can forget about all of that quality stuff. And even like the dangers, like you said, about losing muscle mass and like muscle mass rather,
Yes.
and
Yes.
all those other consequences that can happen that I mean, a lot of people just aren't even aware of
Right.
as a potential risk. They just
Right.
think thinner is better. I must
Right.
lose weight
Right. Exactly.
at any cost.
That is exactly what I think most people think, that weight loss is the most important thing. And so it doesn't really matter how you get there. And I think there's a lot of health professionals and physicians who
Mhm.
who say that too,
Mhm.
and they're wrong. you know,
You heard it here, folks. It's not just
sorry,
me
not
who says
sorry,
these
right?
things. No, I agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
right now, oh, go ahead.
no, finish your thought. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say right now, something I'm really interested in, because there's been a lot of research in this area. And I'll just mention it real briefly
Mhm.
because it relates to the quality of the diet, is with aging, we have sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss. And so it is really important that women above the age of 40, definitely after menopause, get enough protein. And the one thing I find all the time, and myself included, until I learned about all of this, that we don't get enough protein. And so that's something that I do work a lot with. So.
Yeah, and I think that's why it really highlights the need to work with someone who knows what they're doing, right? Like if we reduce our diet to simply calories in, calories out, and weight loss being the only thing we're considering, like there are just so many other factors at play. And as you say, like so important to maintain bone density and muscle mass as we age. And without enough protein and micronutrients and all of that good stuff, like, you know, we just don't know what chances we might be taking.
Exactly. Right.
So I wanted to touch on, before we get into, I want to talk more about fit and fat in just a second. But before we get there, let's chat about set point theory. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the set point is?
Okay. Well, my understanding of it is that it's not a point, it's a range that we are genetically programmed to, or I should say our weight is genetically programmed to fall within a range of weights. And then the environment is what affects where you fall in that range, whether you go to the top or to the bottom. And from what I learned, and I'm not an expert in set point range, but what I learned from people who are is that it's much easier to go above that range than it is to go below. It's harder for the brain to, so when it comes, let me just back up, with energy balance, our brain sends us signals. Like if we expend energy one day, the brain is going to send us a signal to make us hungry enough to eat enough calories to balance that out, more or less, you know. And so we have very strong biological cues for us to eat if the body senses that it's losing weight, especially below that range. So like, for instance, if my genetic range is 140 to 150 pounds, I'm just throwing out an example, it's probably, I can probably go above the 150 easier than it's going to be for me to go below 140. And I think what that means is for people to not, you know, to be realistic about what they can expect if they are going to try to lose weight. But also, I think it tells us that not everybody is meant to be 120. Not every woman's meant to be 120 pounds.
Yeah.
This may not be her genetic blueprint. And I can't tell you how many women I talk to who are postmenopausal or menopausal and are frustrated with the weight gain, which I get that, but they expect themselves to be what they were when they were 20 years old, you know, at that lower weight. But that's another thing, is that weight range, we may not achieve that till we're in our 30s or 40s. So there's still a lot that isn't known yet about it, from what I've heard.
Right. But the long and short of it is that if we try to fight our biology and go below our set point range, we're going to encounter a lot of resistance from our biology. And we're not going to be able to sustain it. Right. So what do you see happen when we try to fight our set point and we try to lose weight below our set point? What kinds of things come up that get in our way?
One of the biggest one is that our metabolic rate goes down, it decreases. So if a person is losing weight, let's say they go on a diet, and let's say they're in the middle of their set range, okay, but you know, they don't know that, but let's say they're in the middle, so they go on a diet and they lose weight fairly easily for the first month or two. That's because they're kind of ratcheting down to the lower end of this genetic range that they can be at.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets harder and harder to lose weight because they're at the bottom of that range. Plus, in that process of losing weight, they've lowered their metabolic rate enough that if they take in even 100 calories more, they won't lose weight. And everybody who's tried to lose weight has experienced this. I would guess that it's that plateau that everybody talks about. It's real. It's real. And that plateau probably is the lower end of that range. And I think people have to ask themselves at that point, am I willing to dramatically reduce my caloric intake and or dramatically increase my exercise to achieve more weight loss? Because that is what it will take. And I've had people ask me, can I go below that plateau? Sure. But you have to make very, very dramatic changes to your lifestyle, and you have to maintain those forever.
Yeah.
Are you willing to do that? There are people who are, and they live a very rigid lifestyle. Not what I would want to do myself.
Nor I.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah, not even a little bit.
Nope. And how does that affect our athletic performance when we're living in a restricted state, right? When our metabolic rate slows down so much.
Exactly. Well, and then the other thing that happens with the lower metabolic rate is losing muscle mass. And that has been shown in people who diet, is that you do lose muscle. Even in people who are dieting kind of a healthy way, and if there is such a thing, I should say healthier maybe than just some kind of crazy diet, you will still lose muscle mass. And that's one of the reasons of the lower metabolic rate. So if you're an athlete, that can be a problem because you're going to lose power and strength if you lose muscle mass. And for young women who are in childbearing age, if they go too low, they can end up getting a condition called red S. There's other names for it, but that's where they stop menstruating. They lose bone density. And stopping menstruating is a big deal. And I know some young athletic women think that's great, but it's not so great. It's actually very, very bad and may reduce your risk of reduce your chances of ever getting pregnant and having a child.
Wow.
So going too low can cause lots of problems. The other thing too to think about is if you go too low with caloric intake, is it affects our immune system. And, with this pandemic, I think that's something we all have to think about. You're going to be at a much higher risk of either catching a virus or any kind of illness. And if you get it, not doing as well as if you were healthy. So.
Yeah, 100%. And I can relate to everything that you just said. Back in my dieting, disordered relationship with food and exercise days, I lived in that restricted state for a very long time and over exercise. So it was like just this perfect storm. Did lose my menstrual cycle for 9 months.
Wow.
And like I said, I didn't even really see it as the red flag that it was. But what I also noticed was I was very injury prone.
Yes.
My speed was decreasing. Like I'm a runner and I couldn't seem to maintain the speed targets that I previously had. And I was sick and tired all the time.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I work with some collegiate athletes too. And that's what we see. They're also at a much higher risk for a stress fracture.
Had that too. I did.
Yeah. And most injuries are just at a higher risk when you're not eating enough. And it just makes sense because you're not getting all the nutrients that you need. You're not getting the calories and protein that you need to be a strong athlete. So it's just not a good way to go.
Yeah. And to support the body's ability to heal, right? Like there's just not enough extra.
Right.
Okay. So then if managing our weight and watching our BMI is not the key to health or athletic performance, what is?
Well, what I think, there's a lot of things that are important to health. There isn't just one thing, and we probably all have seen that wheel of health, and there's all
Mm-hmm.
the little so there's spiritual health, there's sexual health, there's all kinds of different aspects of health. But the one that I'm most interested in, and I think arguably could say gives you the most bang for your buck, is fitness. And when I say fitness, I'm referring to cardiorespiratory fitness. A lot of the studies have shown that CRF, or cardiorespiratory fitness, is, well, not only is it an independent risk factor for heart disease, diabetes, cancer, stroke, the big health conditions that most people in the United States and North America die from, but it is a better predictor of what's called early mortality than BMI.
Mm.
And I just think that is so important. When I first heard that back in grad school, I was very suspect of that. I just didn't think it was right. I had to see the studies myself, and I did. And I talked to a lot of people who know a lot more about this than I do, but I'm totally convinced now that our fitness, cardiorespiratory fitness level, which refers to how well you would do in a treadmill test, is independent of BMI, and is the best, or one of the best predictors of how long you will live and whether you'll get heart disease, cancer, diabetes, things like that, some forms of cancer.
Yeah. And we can measure cardiorespiratory fitness without stepping on a scale.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. And that's the thing that I was so amazed by when I was learning all this. And one person that I just want to mention, there are several people, but one person is Stephen Blair. At the time, he was at the Cooper Aerobics Clinic in Dallas. Now he's in South Carolina, but he did most all of this research and published it in all the big journals, medical journals. So if you want to do any kind of research, look for Stephen Blair. And his research had thousands of people followed over up to 20 years. These are big, big studies. And they were able to statistically tease out the different risk factors for like heart disease and stroke and things like that. So they had BMI, they had blood pressure, cigarette smoking, cardiorespiratory fitness. And I think those were the main ones. But fitness always came out to be a better predictor than BMI, always. In fact, several of his studies showed that essentially skinny, unfit guys, the men, looking at the men, skinny, unfit men had twice the death risk that fat but fit men had.
Wow.
And he showed that over and over. And then he showed it in women. And I'm just convinced now that it's more important to work on fitness than it is to try to lose weight.
Yeah. Let that one sink in. Twice the risk.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yes. So in other words, fat but fit men had a much lower death risk than the skinny couch potato guys, and the women as well.
So we are really putting all our eggs in the wrong basket when we focus on weight loss alone.
Exactly.
I talk a lot on here about how focusing on the scale is a motivation killer. Like there are lots of studies around how chasing thinness when we move will like limit our exercise adherence and like just kills our motivation.
Yes.
And now as I'm listening to you, like it's not helpful anyways. We're really focused on the wrong things. Like it's not sustainable. Like you can't sustain the weight loss. It doesn't improve your risk. It's a motivation killer. So we're really barking up the wrong tree when that's our focus.
Yes. And when I hear some of the diets, some of the crazier diets that say, follow this program, take this pill, do whatever, no exercise needed. You don't have to exercise. I'm thinking, well, you may lose weight, but you're not improving your health. Okay. And people think the weight loss will improve their health.
Yeah.
not if you don't improve your fitness.
Right.
And you can improve your health by improving your fitness, whether you lose weight or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really important to see them as two separate things,
Two
health
separate things.
and weight.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I hear all the time, but I want to lose weight so I'm healthier. I will
So
be
that,
healthier, right? And that
exactly.
every single health goal, it seems that people come with, there's a certain amount of pounds attached to it. And it's like, you
Right.
cannot
Right.
measure health on the scale.
Oh, not at all. I can't tell you, like in triathlons, how many times I've seen very large men and women doing triathlons, many of which may be passing me.
Mm-hmm.
And, or the opposite, you see very skinny, lean, fit looking type people who, are not healthy or are not that great of an athlete. So you really
Right.
can't tell somebody, you definitely cannot tell somebody's health or health risk by looking at them at
Nor
all.
their athletic ability.
Nor their athletic
they're,
ability.
they're just so mutually exclusive. So
Exactly.
if fitness is the thing that we should be focusing on, if we really want to do what's within our power to improve our health, give me some examples. How can we work on our cardiovascular fitness?
Oh, very good question. Actually, the easiest thing is just to walk. And first of all, if you can do a fitness test to get a baseline is helpful. One fitness test you can do on your own is called the Rockport 1 mile fitness test. You can Google that. It gives you all the directions. Rockport 1 mile fitness test. So you could do that. You need to do it at a track, or you could also just go out and see how far you can walk comfortably. Or let's say if you're into swimming or biking or whatever your exercises of choice, see what you can do, and then get a training plan. And there's lots of those out there.
Mm-hmm.
We also, my husband and I have a program for women to do that. But you want a program that progresses the distance, if it's weightlifting, the weights you lift, but you obviously need to progress over a period of time. And right now, the recommendations for physical activity that meets the guidelines for a good level of fitness is 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity each week.
Okay.
So that is the baseline amount that's needed to achieve a good enough fitness level. Now, that's not the fitness level required to do an Ironman triathlon, but that you don't need to do an Ironman triathlon to be healthy.
Right. No.
You only do that if you're, crazy like I am.
Well, if that's something that, sounds like fun to you,
right?
Which it doesn't to me. And what do you say to the person who 150 minutes is a lot to them?
Start off. Exactly. So to obviously start small, if you can see what you can do. Like, I remember working with a woman who lived on a country road. And so she walked to the stop sign that was, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile away. And to walk there and back was all she could do. Okay. And then over the course of time that we worked together, she was able to walk much further. So I would say to anybody, just, you could just go out and kind of measure your own, see where you're at and decide on what your goals are. Maybe you have a goal of walking a 5K or something like that. And then try to gradually increase. And some people go by distance, some people go by time. I think it's probably better to go by minutes. Like, that's another way to do it. Let's go out and see how many minutes you can walk comfortably before you feel like I got to stop. And then just gradually increase that. The goal for just basic fitness or a good fitness level would be 150 minutes per week. So I would keep track of it on some type of a diary or app. There's a bazillion apps out there now where you can do that. And work yourself up. If you're not at 150 minutes yet, then definitely work toward that. Yeah. And if you're good with that, that's great. Yeah. Then you've probably improved your health. You've reduced your risk for the big diseases we've talked about. You probably feel better, probably sleeping better, probably have more energy just by doing that. In fact, the studies yeah, the studies show that you get the most bang for your buck going from totally sedentary to that level of activity than to go above and beyond, to do the long endurance type of things.
Right. So we
Yeah.
don't have to be doing an hour a day, 5 days a week at
No,
breakneck speed,
right.
giving it everything we have every time we show up.
Exactly. And I think that's the other good news is it doesn't take that much to get the health benefits.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't. So it's really just a matter, if you're sedentary, not doing anything, it's a matter of just starting to move more.
Yeah.
Move more around the house, try to increase the number of minutes. And it doesn't have to be every day. 150 minutes a week really works out to be 30 minutes on 5 days a week. And the other thing too to keep in mind is it doesn't have to be accumulated 30 minutes in one day. It could be 3 10-minute bouts. It could be 2 15-minute bouts. The same effect.
Right. So you can fit those into the pockets of your life.
Exactly.
A little bit here, a little bit there, some stretching, some walking, some dancing, anything that works, right?
Yeah, anything that works.
I try to really break down the all or nothing thinking, because I think there's a lot of that in the fitness industry, that it has to be those 150 minutes. So I got to do 30 minutes a day. And, and that's what we let our brain go there. And then anything else feels like it's wrong or it's not good enough. So
exactly. And, I firmly believe in more is better than none, and life happens. There's going to be days where you get none. It definitely happens for me. Or you're traveling and you don't do as much activities you normally do. It's okay. It's okay. Aim for being better, not best, or progress instead of perfection.
Absolutely.
That's really, I think, the best. But it's just keep in mind that you don't have to do it all at once. It could be a variety of things. Like you said, it could be gardening, dancing, even house cleanings, some types of house cleaning even counts. So that's one good thing about house cleaning.
Yeah.
It does count.
Because you're looking for moderate activity, right? So I know when I clean my bathroom, that's a bit of work. So
it is. Right.
So break down
my son used to have twin beds or bunk beds. And when I got on that top bunk to change the sheets when he was little, I thought, this has got to count for an aerobic.
Got to count. Yeah. So it's important to take inventory of what you're already doing that might be considered, part of that 150 minutes.
Right.
It doesn't have to take place in a gym. It doesn't have to be at the intensity that that nearly kills you. And it doesn't have to be with the objective of changing your body to count.
You don't have to have 6-pack abs.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
I always say, I'm sure there's one in there somewhere.
Right.
I have strong abdominals, but you'll never see them.
Right. And the pictures we see of people where you do see them, I would almost guarantee they have restricted their calorie and fluid intake
and fluids, right? Yeah.
And fluids to get to be able to see them. So yeah.
Okay. So let's summarize, or actually, let me ask you this question. Can you give me a practical example, maybe someone that you've worked with in the past, just to inspire our listeners, and illustrate how it is possible to be both fit and fat?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, 2 people come to mind, 2 women that went through our program. One is, her name is Kathy, and she's a larger sized woman. And when she started our program, she was fairly sedentary, but she wanted to walk or run, wanted to learn how to do that, to learn how to run. And so she started by walking, and we gradually progressed her over the time. And at that time, we were also in our group training for the local 10K. There's a local 10K here called the Boulder. It's in Boulder, Colorado. And she trained for that, and she finished it, and she just was over the moon. She just thought, she never in her wildest dreams ever thought she'd be able to walk a 10K, let alone the Boulder. And it was a great experience. She has since gone on to walking and kind of walk run half marathons. And she's probably done, I don't know how many half marathons. And she's a large woman, and she She refuses to diet. But regardless of that, she's fit enough that she could go out and walk 13.1 miles right now. And I could guarantee you a lot of people can't do that. And a lot of thin people could not do that.
Absolutely. That's a long walk or run. Like it's a
Exactly.
long time. So,
And she knows, we've talked, she knows that you don't have to walk a half marathon to be fit. It's just something she enjoys doing. She likes it's just her thing. But I had another woman in the program who was a belly dancer, and she wanted to be able to belly dance for a longer period of time. And so that was her goal. And she started off without having the strength or the ability to belly dance for too long. And now she's out doing all these belly dancing competitions.
So that's so cool, right? Like we all
such
have our own motivation for movement, and it
Exactly.
certainly doesn't have to check any of the boxes or look a certain way to be right. It's just about being able to do those things that you enjoy to the best of your ability and as as much as you want to.
Yes, exactly. I love seeing that. I love bringing that out in people, seeing them kind of find their inner athlete,
So cool. I love it. I always like to finish interviews by asking my signature question, which is, what does joyful movement mean to you?
Oh, I'm a big, I do triathlons, but bicycling is my favorite. When I'm on my bike, yesterday, I went for the first ride of the season in shorts and a short sleeve shirt because it was warm enough. I thought I was in heaven. So being on my bike is definitely my happy place. I like swimming. I like running. I like hiking. I like walking. I like doing anything active, but bicycling is my joy.
Awesome. Yeah, we've all got our thing, right? I like cycling too, but I'm much more in my element, hiking or running. Those are my things.
Yeah, hiking is a very close second. Yeah, very close second, because I love to be in the mountains. So yeah,
I think anything outdoors is really healing, right? There's just so many benefits to being outdoors.
I just think it's second to physical activity. I think just being in nature and being outside is incredibly healing.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. This has been a really, really great conversation. You shared a lot of great research and wisdom, and I think it's going to be a really practical conversation for our listeners. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for asking me, and I enjoyed it as well.
Oh, my pleasure. For the sake of our listeners who want to stay in touch, where can they follow you?
Well, I have a Facebook group if anybody's interested. It's a Facebook group for women in midlife. So in general, any women over 40-ish. It's called Food and Fitness for Women in Midlife. So I'd love to have you in it. You can always just email me too at cindydallow@gmail.com. And I have a program called Women in Motion, but you'd learn about that in the Facebook group. So, contact me. I answer any emails I get. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Well, I will link all of that up in the show notes, as well as the Rockport walking test. If anybody wants to, try that out, to get your baseline fitness level. I'll put all that in the show notes. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, Cindy. This has been a really great conversation. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning into the Power in Motion podcast today. If you love what you're learning here, then I invite you to take the next step of embodying these concepts into your own life so that you can live your healthiest, happiest life and never again feel held back by your body. Coaching is the fastest, most efficient pathway to taking what you know in your head to actually applying it and seeing results. Whether you're looking to make changes around movement, food, body image, or all three, I'm here to help you nurture a kind, respectful, and trusting relationship with your body so you can feel your very best. Click the link in the show notes to book a free consultation, and together we'll uncover what's getting in the way of you having the results you want. You'll leave this call knowing exactly what you need to work on, and together we'll explore whether one of my coaching offers is a good fit for you. I can't wait to meet you.